afternoon, whale. I know that we have all just finished playing poker. It was an exciting day. And to continue on the excitement, we have the amazing opportunity to do a whale leadership AMA with our most fabulous moderator, Annissa. So thank you so much for joining today. Welcome. It's awesome to have you here.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
So what we're going to do, we're going to start off talking about your whale journey and then details about your experience in the whale leadership team. The subject of wearing many hats, because oh my gosh, you do so amazingly impressive with juggling it all. And then we're going to do a pretty quick interview today because I know it's like the middle of the night there for you, so I don't want to keep you up late.
Thank you.
So to get started, we had Red Girls kind of ask the opening question, which I think is a good one, asking how you got started in the whale community, what triggered you to join, and, how long have you been here? So give us a little bit of the origin story of Annissa and Whale, please.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, my entry point into crypto in general would be in 2020. It was pretty recent when I bought my first NFT. And I really saw an opportunity in the rise of digital assets in 2019 when the space was still in infancy stages and really fell in love with the value proposition NFTs gave. But one way that I really familiarized myself with this space was through Twitter and podcasts, which I don't think many people at the time realized that was where NFTs were going to reside in hindsight. But I followed wonderful creators leading this space like Andrew Steinwald, Juan van Gerbels, John Egan, Creating Crypto, and LR Ventures, and came across Whale Shark's podcast with Zima Red. And Whale was just starting at that point, and I believe Whale wasn't worth anything yet at that point, but it's important to be ahead of the curve, and NFTs really sit at the edge of what's coming next for the blockchain. So I knew I wanted to get involved. So I reached out to Whale Shark with a position as an intern focusing on marketing and strategy, and then the rest is history. But I feel like I can truly say that the blockchain is really one of the best places for networking because there's a handful of people that are more than happy to help and educate. So I guess the least I can do is to pass down the favor for anyone looking to learn and educate themselves about blockchain now. And it's precisely what Whale has evolved into.
And that definitely, I think that, the description of what Whale community has evolved into is spot on. Mm-hmm. And, it's kind of magical that there are so many people here willing to share their experience and knowledge and help everyone grow together. And aside from that, is there anything that has kind of surprised you about our community over the last year? Because we're right at that 1 year mark now next month.
Yeah, super exciting. May 18th, Whale anniversary. But where we are today, right, is that we've really managed to grow one of the most robust NFT communities in the space. We have about 12K members on Discord as of today, and our members have stuck with us from our earliest record pricing of 17 cents all the way to our all-time high of $52. But I guess basically what we're trying to do here is that by forming the largest artist and collector community, we have people who are creating games, who are creating art, and building in virtual digital lands, right? And by doing this, we really create different synergies between projects and form a real center of knowledge around NFTs. And so I guess what really surprised me was that over the last 6 months, we've really been able to see a distinct diversification in our community, where there's a very positive interaction across OG crypto holders, people who have been buying Bitcoin since 2009 that are off to the races with DeFi, and NFT collectors, which, really knew about NFTs in the crypto space maybe last Monday. And so what you really have here is this very eclectic mix of people interacting. And so we're very excited and really happy to see that going on because essentially everyone's passing down that knowledge and interacting. And so basically what really happened and what we have now here is that the Whale Discord, which is our community, has really become a very large value proposition that we have, right? We have members sending 2,000 members a month feeling they're value members of the community. So, that's been amazing.
That has definitely been an amazing journey. So tell us, Goja wants to know, how do you manage your time for the Whale community and, your family or external, me time? How do you balance that? What do you do when you're not involved in crypto?
I think balance is definitely something that needs to be trained. It's a skill that needs to be learned. I think sometimes and I'm just speaking for myself here, but I feel like it can be mirrored and seen in a lot of our moderators on our team that, our work is really our passion, right? It's what drives us, it fuels us, it helps us in our personal and our, developmental career. So, work really is my passion. I really like saying that because it's what I'm doing here at Whale is really fulfilling. I can truly say that, I'm really the busiest I've ever been, but it's also been the most fulfilling I've ever been. But in terms of balancing, workload, that's something that I really had to learn for myself. But I would honestly say that, it would be exercising. So I used to do yoga on a daily basis. So I would wake up at like 6 a.m. and then I would go to yoga and then really get everything loose and just go on about my day, because how you start your day is really sets a precedent for how the rest of your day is going to go. So that's some advice and just what I've done personally to kind of have that work-life balance.
And that is definitely good advice, as people are looking to make sure that they're balancing here.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. I feel like especially with the stress that kind of crypto gives and this space gives, it's important to have that balance, or else if it tips to one way, then you get off balance and then, you need to calibrate.
Well, and especially because it's a non-stop, like 24/7 space. Like crypto doesn't
Absolutely.
sleep.
It doesn't sleep. So yeah, but you have to sleep, right? So it's about taking those trade-offs, right? But you have to.
As you've been part of the Whale community. You started as an intern.
Mm-hmm.
You've moved on very quickly from being an intern and a junior mod to a full moderator, and then a very core part of the leadership team. Can you tell us first about your favorite part of being a Whale moderator?
Yeah, I mean, there's two answers to those questions, right? But my favorite part of being a Whale moderator, and I mentioned this in one of my interviews with Emma from Digitalax, who was great, and you should check out that interview if you haven't. But that a lot of people talk about company culture, but oftentimes forget about community culture and positive yet progressive and diligent community culture. And I feel like over time, we've been extremely lucky to have attracted so many community members that share the same values as we do, right? I mean, like there's a set of driving principles in our community that I feel like a lot of members can really recognize and really share. And that's, we invest rather than we trade. I think there's a huge market for trading and for people to buy and sell. But we've realized that the people who make the largest amount of money are people that are actually truly invest their time and energy into really going deep into this space, right? Is being hands-on with the community and driving that ecosystem. So while you see a large amount of MTs in the vault, we're proud to say that we've never sold a single one of them. And you call that strong hands, but it's just because we do a lot of due diligence before we invest in a project. And because once we decide to invest, we invest in it deep and for the long run. And because a lot of investors try to find an epic project but they tend to be on the passive side, whereas leading on to our second principle, we're very supportive on the projects we invest in and we're more active rather than passive, right? I mean, we hold one of the highest crypto voxel lands in the community, and we understood that in order for crypto voxels to succeed, they need to have content. And so it's very similar to social networking, where the more content you have, the more chances the project has to succeed. And so we've really kind of, right? I mean, we hold like 200 parcels in crypto voxels right now, if I'm not mistaken. And when I say owning it, it doesn't mean that we just hold it and leave it empty, but we leased it out for 1 year, right? And we gave artists a chance to display their artworks in these galleries and really own a piece of land. So what you have here is it's really like a win-win-win situation, right? I mean, artists have their own space to display their artworks, and crypto voxels win because they get content. And because both crypto voxels and artists have won, both our land prices and our value or our asset value escalates. And I guess our third would be, we're extremely financially disciplined, because when you look at our structure, we have no debt, no liability. And from an expenses point of view, all of our salaries, payments, and partnerships are all paid out in Whale. And it's all part of our monthly Whale distribution. So you basically have this machine running in a virtuous cycle at this point. And number 4, which is probably the most important, something that I value very deeply, and it's very close to myself as well, is that we want positive growth, but on mutual respect, right? I mean, a large part of the Whale that we distribute each month actually goes to projects within the NFT space that were pioneers that either hosted events like podcasts, etc., right? And they've done some great things with it, like rewarding the communities, buying new equipment, or hiring people to build new websites. And this in totality pushes the space forward. So if there's one guiding principle with everything that we do, it would be to be a force of good for the NFT space and creating that accessibility. But I mean, the second part, my favorite part of being a Whale moderator is that I've really been able to meet so many amazing people through Whale that really helped me grow as a person, both in my career and personal life. Like, knowledge is something that no one can take away from you. And having learned so much, that's something that I'm really eternally grateful for. But yeah.
Awesome. So one of the questions that people had, because obviously, as you've mentioned, with different projects, and the Cryptory wanted to know, with Whaleshark kind of concentrating on the Elite project a little bit more now, the relevance to the Whale community. I know that we have some of the Elite tokens in the vaults, and that's where we're kind of move the Whale gaming over to have kind of the gaming side of the community. But has that changed your role here? Or, Esoteric kind of noted you're the marketing manager as well. So how has the growth of Elite impacted your interactions here in the space? And what does that mean to the community, do you think?
Yeah, well, I would say it's just another extension and a synergy to kind of the totality of us pushing this space forward, right? I mean, we're leaders in the space, so I feel like it's very important that we kind of branch off as well into different disciplines, and that would be in both the metaverse and also connecting the physical and the digital, which I feel like in terms of a product point of view, when you have something in both worlds, that kind of connects that perfectly, and then you really become that gateway or that bridge in the production side. Because I think, for me personally, I'm a huge proponent of the fact that NFTs are really going to be the gateway for the commercialization of digital assets. And so with the rise of Elite and digital wearables with, luxury fashion, luxury esports fashion, that's really going to shape the narrative, right? And I feel like it's just something that is inevitable. And as our lives get more and more digital, digital assets are just going to be more involved in our day-to-day lives. But in terms of how it's impacted my role, that's a fantastic question. I think, a lot of what we do in Whale is also part marketing, right? It's part branding, it's part marketing. It's how we drive people to be inspired and empowered through the brand of Whaleshark and the brand of the Whale community, which is actually very similar with what we do with Elite. I mean, it's similar jobs in terms of motivating people and inspiring people into joining this space and kind of giving that reassurance as well, because I feel like a lot of times there's been this kind of dogma with the crypto space in general. And so, having that expertise in Whale and learning how to build that community has really aided us into building a successful community in Elite as well.
I do think that it has been awesome seeing your growth with the branching out of Elite and all of the marketing skills you've been able to apply both in Whale and Elite. So big kudos to you there.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and even with you, Moose, I've learned so much from you, even from marketing and from banning, especially with your previous expertise. It's definitely been a journey and a beautiful one as well.
That's a great part about having such a diverse and talented team, is we all get to learn from each other as we're hanging out here, not just the team, but the community. And every day is a new learning opportunity. So
100%.
Awesome. And so one of the things that came up pretty frequently when people were asking questions, part of this wearing many hats category, is the number of interviews that you've been doing lately, as we've been kind of integrating some of the more mainstream personalities into the Whale community. And so people like Paris Hilton, for example. And Milena wants to know, since you've interviewed Paris Hilton, how do you prepare for such an interview? Because you have a very strong, competent interviewing style.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one of the main drivers of success for Whale, and a very prominent one as well, was Whale FM, right? When we started to see an increase in attention to NFTs, what we've done was that we adopted or developed an educational system called Whale FM, available on Twitter, transcribed to Medium, YouTube, Twitch, and other than just Discord, eventually, and being able to use that whale branding to educate people about NFTs and wealth management. So we're not just about accumulating assets, but we're also about educating over the course of collecting. But in terms of interviewing, I would say do your research, make your guests feel comfortable, and take note on how other podcasts or interviewers you admire interview. Some of the characteristics that I've really observed or noticed in how to become a successful interviewer is really to learn how to think on the spot. And I'm sure a lot of other moderators that have been interviewing kind of have to do the same thing, right? And that's what most people have to do. But it gets easier when you have notes on hand to revert to points, because the art of interviewing or podcasting is really when your guest comes on and they mention a word or a topic, you write that down, you go through your notes, and then quickly make a response that can be built upon and expanded upon. So taking notes is very important. And number 2 is try to build a connection with your guests from the get-go. First impressions are very important. I mean, find anything to connect with based on your research. Make them feel comfortable, because many guests, it's their first time coming on to shows like this or getting interviewed. So they may be a bit stiff or a bit nervous. And so that would be a wonderful way to kind of get that connection going. And I'd actually love to play a video that really illustrates that point on how kind of finding that connection between, a guest and an interviewer kind of works, right? Like finding the connection and building that first impression. So let me go share my screen right now.
All right, I'm excited to see this.
I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear this, but.
Here.
Mr. Coates, very nice to meet you. Mr. Coates, did you catch that game last night? Mr. Coates, it's an impressive hairstyle. Mr. Coates, have you been to Neuschwanstein?
Yes. You know of it?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of castles.
Yeah, so that's just an example, but it's something that has really helped me in interviewing when you find that connection with your audience and your guests. And it's even helped me even with career-wise and jobs. And so that's something that I would advise on. And then 3 is to try and get an interesting angle. Go through their work, go through their social media, go through their YouTube, try to find things that maybe they said years ago. And then when you actually bring it up, they're going to be like, wow, you really went through my stuff. And then they feel comfortable talking about it because they've already mentioned it before. And so you're really just reiterating, and then you're also validating their points. So it makes them feel validated and makes them feel heard. So that's really kind of my take on how to make your guests feel comfortable. But most importantly, like I said, take notes. That would be the largest factor. Note taking is something that has taken me a long, long way, both in self-development and my career. And that habit is translated beautifully into interviewing. And I've never really interviewed in my life previously, right? Not as regularly, at least. And I had to manage 4 to 5 interviews per week in the beginning. So I had to learn how to create structure around interviews. But I slowly realized that the more you talk about a subject, the more you know. And so eventually it just becomes this perpetuous cycle of just learning and then saying and learning and saying. And then you just gain more knowledge and you gain a hub of information, and then you just start pulling things out to talk about. And then your response is to create those points, those cues, those quick cues on how to respond, get quicker and quicker. And so some of the advice as to what I'm doing right now or how I prepare is, I would say, prepare 12 to 13 questions as a base structure. So go through all of their YouTube videos, go through, if they have any, go through the website, any publications. 12 to 13 questions is all you really need. And then also for an introduction, go through all of the podcasts and interviewers that you enjoy. And I really recommend Zima Red and Outlier Ventures. They do amazing interviews, and I've taken a lot of inspiration from them. Even in the beginning, when I created my introduction for all of the interviews, that being Collector's Insight, Artist Fireside Chats, Project Showcases, and now most recently, the Whale Hot Seat. I've really created this directional template even for our team for introduction and questions that has really been passed on. Our team can really use as a base. And that has really, I feel like, helped us as a team. It's just easier to come up with the questions and things like that. But I guess, I don't want to ramble on too long, but I guess my closing thoughts on this would be, as long as you put the hours into it, anyone can be a good interviewer.
That is absolutely good advice. As you mentioned, the more you do it, the more you gain the experience. Also, kind of has a very strong correlation with the more you're learning, because the best way to really learn something and understand it thoroughly is to teach it, because as you're doing that, you're able to find the gaps in knowledge, and then you're inspired to go fill those gaps. So in this case, doing the interviewing, I think you've really illustrated that well. And
Thank
that's
you so much, Mace.
been awesome to see the progression as we've gone on and had some of those really high caliber guests and a lot of new guests who you've made them feel very comfortable and welcome and part of the community. And that talent is absolutely priceless. So
Thank you so much, Moose. I mean, even the interviews that you've been doing, like even like the Ryan Tedder interview that we're going to be playing, it's amazing to see. Like even the questions that you prepared, it's so detailed and it's amazing. I draw inspiration from that as well. And I go back to that point of what you said. We have such an eclectic mix in our team of people from different walks of life and different careers. It's great to kind of draw inspiration from each other. And I've seriously learned so much from the team and every single one of them as well. And when people mention like, Paris Hilton and things like that, and like while we love having a lot of high profile celebrities, right, and collectors come into the space, I feel like they follow the same ethos and value that this is for everybody and this is to kind of change the world. And so it's an amazing feeling to be a part of something so impactful, that's really solving real world problems that needs to be solved in the entire art industry.
you are absolutely spot on. And I think that's a good transition actually to the next topic of wearing many hats. Is your experience when you first started in Whale. One of your biggest focus points was actually the Whale Kids Project, and that's something that's still ongoing. So can you tell us a little bit about the Whale Kids Project, the goals, the outcomes that you hope to achieve or generate by promoting children in art in the whale space and, the greater crypto space?
1,000%. Yeah, I mean, like earlier on, I even wrote an article highlighting some of the main points of why we're doing this, right? And it's kind of because we're doing this for the next generation and we're really preparing them for their future in the blockchain, right? Because essentially they're really going to be leading this digital force, but are they ready in doing so, right? I mean, the NFT and the crypto art space opens up a world of possibilities for the youngsters of today, right? And so they will require some practical skills and habits in order for them to take full advantage of their future. And these youngsters are known as Generation Z. And so, these children or these kids are coming of age in a world where digitalization technology is at a height more prominent than ever before, as you can see. And they will need to be technologically literate, adaptable, and comfortable with the different mediums available for expressing their creativity. So as of now, as parents and educators, it's us. It's on us that we should be at the forefront preparing kids for the endless possibilities of the world tomorrow. And us being a team passionate about driving NFT space and all that is crypto, we hope to facilitate a safe and healthy environment for today's children to share the creativity and foster the next generation of crypto artists and developers by providing skill-based learning events or free resources and earning and hodling incentives for all children. And so that's why we really created Whale Kids. But essentially, our Whale Kids initiative really aims to instill knowledge and skills today's children will need to make the most of their future.
And those are most definitely important skills. Kind of, if you learn things early enough, it becomes ingrained habit. So at that point, it's second nature. And then those are things that people are able to be very successful as they grow up and apply the skills even outside of the scenario in which they learn them. And that is really exciting. Kennard also submitted a question on behalf of Mela, wanting to know if you've ever ridden a horse. I think this is directly from the Whale Kids.
Yes, and thank you so much for your question, Mela. I love your work. She's an amazing artist. Creating art. Actually, a lot of art relating to animals, and a lot of the themes that we provided. She's been an absolutely incredible artist and so engaging with the community. So thank you so much for your question, and thank you so much for being an active member in Whale Kids. And to answer your question, yes, I've ridden a horse, and I love riding horses. I wish I could do it more. I will probably do more after the pandemic ends.
That is a good question. I love the fact that we're able to have participation on such a wide scale. There's not a gating mechanism in the whale community where you have to really meet any requirements in order to participate, not age, not gender, not, anything like that, which I think is a very awesome thing, because people had asked actually about the position in the whale leadership. And I think this will be kind of the last question that we cover for the day, because I know that it's late. But in the whale community, we have a very strong group of women leaders on the moderation team and the community leadership. And with that, and inspiring children as well, we're really kind of touching a lot of the different categories of what it means to be part of the human experience. Can you tell us a little bit about your feelings there, and how you foresee the whale community continuing to provide opportunities for kind of everyone?
Yeah, 1,000%. I feel like that touches kind of on some of the milestones of the year, or something, or like a long-term value proposition. But that's a fantastic question. And like, I think it's always been important for our leadership team to kind of ask ourselves, right, what type of project do we want to be in the coming year? And over the past year, we're nearing our 1-year anniversary. And so we've definitely been more agile and daring to crack this new market and establish ourselves as a center of knowledge or an expertise in the field of NFTs. But basically what we managed to create is this very stable and yet growing community or social currency that just continues to grow in the double and triple digits every single month. And right now we're definitely leaning towards being more operational to firm up our existing position. So I would say our milestones for the year would be to increase our market participation, extend our reach, improve our quality, and mitigate our impact versus effort. But like, taking that question one step further, first of all, I feel like we need everyone to understand that whale isn't just a 1-year or 2-year or even like a 10-year project, as Will Sharkus mentioned, right? For us, it's looking to create a 100-year project. And like I mentioned, that our lives are really getting more and more digital, and in the next 100 years, digital assets are only going to progress. And so we would love to kind of see the vault become whatever NFTs decide to evolve into. Because what you see happening now is that we're starting to bridge that gap between the traditional and the digital art markets, with Chrissy's listing the first 5,000 days people NFTs, and Sotheby's announcing their collaboration with PAC. One day we would love to have a whale MoMA that can really stand testament of all these amazing artists and creators. And so how we form that bridge is another long-term vision that we have, whether that be from celebrities or influencers, paving that path for that mainstream adoption, or seeing the expansion of the metaverse and the use cases within projects and the financial incentives behind these projects, with land rentals, or being able to create financial sustainability and generate stable cash flow, are kind of all the things that we hope to see and push forward in the long run.
I think that is a fabulous outlook for not only where we're at, but where we're going, and how we will be able to continue enabling the community members to, progress in the space and in their personal situations as well. And that's, I think, the most rewarding thing about being part of the community, is being able to help enable others to do their best and be their best. And you've done a really awesome job of explaining how you are a huge contributor to what makes you so awesome.
Thank you, Moose, and right back at you.
Thank you. So this, I think the last thing I'd want to ask is there anything that we haven't asked today, but that you'd like to add before we get closed up for the AMA?
Yeah, well, guys, I would say make sure to check out the amazing interview that Rudem00se is going to be doing with Ryan Tedder from Roman Republic. She did an amazing job. And check that out. It's going to be at 6 p.m. today. So make sure to support Moose and our Whale FM interview so that we can continue to educate while accumulating.
Fantastic. And yes, thank you again so very much, Annissa, for answering the community's questions. Thank you to the community for coming out to support and learn more about our leadership and for providing these amazing questions for us to ask today. We will see you all later. Have a great rest of the day.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much, Maurice, for hosting this.